Today I'm glad to discuss with you about the critical issues of Chinese society, which is also the major concern of Chinese spatial planning. This is part of my work at the TU Delft as a guest researcher, thanks to the funding of Urbanism program and the hosting of TU Delft, which make my research here possible. There are two parts in this discuss. First, a little introduction about the spatial planning system of China. There are three different ministries that are in charge of spatial planning. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development is in charge of the legally binding comprehensive plan, which is the basis of local government. The National Development and Reform Commission, which is also known as NDRC, is the most powerful department in China. This department is in charge of the non-binding strategic plan, which is mostly regional development plan. And these plans are guidelines of other plans. And the Ministry of Land and Resources is in charge of the land use general plan. These plans are legally binding, and these are zoning plans. The main purpose of these plans is to protect farmland and to control the amount and the allocation of development land. These plans are the basis of our plans. Our plans must conform to these plans. All these spatial plans must coordinate constantly with different government sectors because this plan can be published without the approval of all the government sectors. And there are different laws and standards and specifications that are used to protect and guarantee the quality of spatial plans. China is a country facing many critical issues at the same time. Most of them are interrelated, and which makes it even more difficult to deal with these problems. First, one important issue is the urbanization. The urbanization rate of China has raised very fast in the past 35 years, from half the world average in 1978 to almost the same of the world average. But still, urbanization is the most important issue in today's China, and it became a national strategy to promote urbanization. So why urbanization is so important to today's China? I believe that at least three reasons. In the process of urbanization, there will be more urban residents, which will create more supply of labor force and create more domestic demands. These two matters are quite important for the sustainable development of Chinese economy. And with more rural residents moving into the urban areas, the farmers who remains in the rural areas will have more farmland, which will make it possible for them to increase their income. And with more people moving from rural area to urban areas, it become possible for Chinese government to integrate these small villages scattered in the very remote areas with the larger villages located at better locations. This will make it easier to provide public services to these rural residents. And in the process of fast urbanization, a lot of problems are created. This diagram shows the extent of population concentration in China, and this shows the spatial distribution of industrial parks. We can see that a large amount of population and industries are concentrated in a few urban agglomerations. This will cause very great pressure on the local environment and the local resources, and the consequences could be disastrous, such as the resources shortage. Many Chinese cities found themselves in short of clean water and land resources, and the environmental pollution that include air pollution, water pollution, and soil contamination. And this also causes the collapse of ecosystem, which means we are losing the biodiversity and the cleaning power of the ecosystem. I believe this situation is caused because carrying capacity of local environment and resources hasn't got enough attention in China. The carrying capacity of local environment and resources is not seen as a precondition of local economic development. And air pollution in Chinese big cities become a very regular thing. And the air pollution has expanded to a larger scale. It has become a regional problem. This diagram shows the spatial distribution of cities where air seriously polluted. We can see that many cities are polluted on the same day. Most of them are located in the urban agglomerations in the eastern part of China. There are many evidence showing that the land are being consumed in a very extensive way and very rapidly. Many development land are used to build very broad streets and huge squares that are not necessary at all. And many governments find themselves don't have enough land to develop, so the government began to resort to some extreme measures to create land, such as leveling mountains and reclaim land from the sea, and destroy farmland and cultural heritage. These actions will put ecological safety, food safety, and cultural heritage in danger. This is an article published in Science to reveal the situation and the potential damage to environment of China's land creation movement. This is the working set of a leveling mountain project in Lanzhou City. And this is a satellite image of another Chinese city. You can see that in 2010, these mountains are still here, but in 2013, these mountains have been removed to develop housing. And in the faster expansion of urban areas, the investment in infrastructure is insufficient. Many Chinese cities still don't have the sewage treatment plants. The sewage goes straight to the rivers. And the most popular way of waste disposal in China is simply by burying the waste, which could cause environmental pollution. And the drainage system is built at a very low standard that many urban citizens died in the attack of rainstorm. There are multiple heating system exploding accidents in China. In a single street of Beijing city, there are 3 explosions of the heating system in the past few years, which caused 3 people burned to death by the hot water. There are many migrant workers who are living in very poor conditions. They have been separated from their families. Their children, this picture shows the children playing in the industrial parks in Wenzhou City. These children comes to visit their parents during their summer holidays, but many more children can only see their parents once a year in the Chinese festival. This diagram shows the share of people living in urban areas and the share of people registered as urban residents. You can see there is a gap of 17%. That means about 260 million migrant workers and their families who cannot enjoy the equal rights of obtaining public services where they are living. So these migrant workers have to live in very poor houses, and their children can only go to private schools with very poor facilities and very unqualified teachers. So Chinese government began to realize this problem caused by the previous irrational urbanization and began to call for a new way of urbanization, which I call rational urbanization. And a few measures are being done to deal with these problems, such as the National Major Function-Oriented Zoning, which is published by the NDRC in 2010. This is a milestone in Chinese spatial planning because it's a first step to coordinating the spatial relationships among population, economy, resources, and the environment. Those regions of national importance are identified and divided into 4 categories. And each kind of the zones have different policies. And every provinces of China should have make their own provincial major function-oriented zoning. This is the zoning of China's Guangdong province. After 2 years preparation, the National New Urbanization Plan was published in 2014. There are 5 main missions that are targeted at the problems that are created in a fast urbanization. On the top of the missions is to improve the living conditions of migrant workers by guarantee their equal rights as urban citizens and improve their working skills. Other missions include optimize the spatial structure and the pattern of urbanization and promote the sustainable development. And some very important indicators are also proposed to control the costs of urbanization in this very important fields such as public services, infrastructure, resources, and environment. Economic development is another important issue in China. The Chinese economy has been growing very fast. China has become the second largest economic entity in the world. But in terms of GDP per capita, China is still undeveloped. It's only the 84th in the world. And the regional development is highly unbalanced. This diagram shows the GDP per capita of municipalities in China. You can see that some municipalities are above $30,000, and some regions are still below $1,020. And in the more developed regions, the main problem of economic development is their low competitiveness and the innovation ability. the economic structure hasn't been updated in the past 10 years. Chinese economy is still very dependent on the raw material industries and the labor-intensive industries. This diagram shows the economic structure of the 5 most developed provinces of China. You can see that the secondary industry still dominate their economy. This diagram shows the research and development investment of Zhejiang province, one of the most developed provinces of China. We can see that the investment in R&D has been growing very fast. However, that doesn't change the fact that the innovation ability of most regions of China remains very low, because many of these investments have been wasted by the academic corruption and repeated and useless research. The outcome of this investment is still very low. And there are frequent economic crises that happened during the last few years. Mostly happened in the developed regions of China, because these enterprises in these developed regions still don't have very high competitiveness, and they can resist the changes of development environment. This picture shows the workers waiting to go home after the collapse of their factories. And in the less developed regions, which are the western part of China, the problem is much more serious, because they have disadvantages in almost every aspect that matters for economic development. They are far from the main markets and from the state ports. The living conditions of this place are very hard. The traffic condition is also very bad. And the enterprises in the western China can't recruit enough talented workers, because all the talented people have moved to the eastern part of China. And the government efficiency is very important to the enterprises. This can significantly influence their location choices, but unfortunately, the government efficiency of the western regions is much lower than that of the eastern regions. Regional development plan is administered by the NDRC, and from 2005 to 2012, there are 53 regional development plans being published. The main purpose of these plans is to steer the economic development and the economic spatial distribution. We can see that most of these plans are concentrated in the eastern part, which is the most developed part of China, and the western part, which is the most undeveloped part of China. And the main objective of these plans is promoting industrial transition and upgrading, and accelerating development in regions with economic potentials, and promoting sustainable development in these lagged regions. The state-level new areas are published by the State Council. These are another attempt to guide the economic development and the regional economic development. There are 11 state-level new areas in China by now. 5 of them are published in this year. You can see that Chinese government began to become more active in steering the economic development and the regional economic development. The farmland has reduced by about 7% in the last 15 years, which caused China's self-sufficiency rate of food has fallen to only 87%. That's a serious issue for a big country like China. So since 2006, Chinese government has stressed that we must maintain a certain amount of farmland. The amount of farmland and the development is strictly controlled by the land use general plan at each level of administration. This is the land use general plan of Beijing City. You can see that there are clear boundaries between different kinds of land use. And the yellow ones are the farmland. Environment protection was considered to be less important than economic development for such a long time, until it's too late. Now, the environment quality of China is deteriorating every day. The main reasons can be, there could be four main reasons of such situation. First is the industrial structure. China's economy are still so dependent on the polluting industry, such as steel industry, chemistry industry. And these are the very heavily polluted areas. And there are even black apples, which are polluted by the air. There isn't enough advanced techniques and facilities in China to process the waste and sewage, such as the remote heating plant in Vienna. This is China don't have such advanced technology like this. And there are many laws and specific policies that protect the environment, but very little of them are being implemented because the lack of proper supervision. And the agricultural pollution is another serious problem because Chinese farmers are abusing the fertilizer and pesticides to raise the productivity of farmland. And the agricultural pollution has caused serious consequences. That's no less than the industrial pollution. A lot of cultural heritage have been destroyed in a process of fast urbanization. During the last few years, the heritage conservation system have already been established and heavily funded by governments at different levels. There are two departments that are in charge of the heritage conservation in China. And there are hundreds of national historical cities, towns, and villages. However, there are still many cultural heritage that are being destroyed. Most of them are being destroyed in the name of protection. This is a national historical city, the Liaochun city. In this city, many ancient buildings are being torn down and replaced by the newly built imitations. And the city wall of another ancient city of China has been transformed in a completely different form. This decision is simply based on the decisions of the local officials. I believe the protection of cultural heritage in China should rest on finding a new way of creating economic value by cleverly showing the cultural value and the attraction of these cultural heritages. There are a few attempts in China that in these fields. But in most regions, they only consider the, the protection, but don't consider how to use this heritage conservation to create economic value. Many Chinese villages it's very difficult for many Chinese villages to accessing the basic public services. That's a common issue in most regions of China. And this problem is very crucial to improving the current and future development living conditions of rural residents. In China, there are still very little knowledge on how to improve this situation. And many monies have been spent in a useless way because they don't know how to do this correctly. This is here I introduce a case study in China's western part. This is a very undeveloped county in the western part of China, the Anhui city, and most of the landform is composed of hills and mountains, and the villages are dispersed almost evenly in different locations. So this makes providing public services to these villages very difficult. So after some research, we have set the objective is that all villages can get to the nearest capable hospital within 30 minutes. But there are only one hospital that can meet these demands. That's located in this part of this county. And by our analysis, we found that only 1/6 of the villages can get to the nearest capable hospital within 30 minutes. So there are 3 factors that we can change to improve this situation. That's the spatial distribution of villages, transportation, and spatial distribution of capable hospitals. First, we take the first step is to decide to increase the number of capable hospitals in the first step. After more capable hospitals were established, you can see that there are still some regions that can't get to the nearest capable hospital within 30 minutes, as shown in the deep blue color. So there are clearly much more measures to be done to improve this situation. We try to take another 2 measures to resolve this problem. One is to increase the traffic connections to the nearest large hospitals in the northern part of this county. And another measure is to increase 2 capable hospitals in the southern part of this county, which is very far from other capable hospitals. And by doing this, we found that as a result of doing this, we can find that almost 95% of the areas can get to the nearest capable hospitals within 30 minutes. That's very close to the goals we have set. So the rest of the villages which still can't have access to the hospitals, we suggest to integrate these villages to the nearest to some other villages which has better locations. So by taking these steps, we found the problem can be solved by gradually taking these steps, and we believe these techniques can be used in other parts of China. Some conclusions. First, I think that China is facing many difficult issues at the same time. And second is that some problems are under control, such as the farmland protection and the excessive concentration of population and industries. But some other problems are still getting worse, and we are very far from getting a solution to this issue, such as environment pollution. I found that the reckless pursuit of faster economic growth is the underlying issue, which is the reason of many other issues. So there is a question: should governments be more active in steering the economic development and the industrial location? There are different opinions in China. For me, the answer is definitely yes, because I found many evidence show that the intervention in economic policies and economic location by government can be very successful. But for most Chinese officials and experts in the fields of economy and spatial plans, they don't think it's necessary for government to intervene too much in the industrial policies and guiding the locations of industries. So that's a still unsolved question by now. And I also want to know what do you think about this question? That's some understanding of my. That is some of my understanding about the Chinese major problems, and I invite you to pay more attention and get involved in the research that could help find the solutions to these Chinese problems. And this is important to not only China, but to the sustainable development of the whole world. Thank you.